Um, I went through a very interesting little psychological experiment a few days ago, which is we all have an earliest memory. We all have
An earliest.
an earliest memory, the very first thing you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, something, maybe a party or meeting someone or a birthday present or
Mm-hmm.
a new place or a new experience or something that made you happy or something that made you sad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we all have an earliest memory, which is key to who we are. But things happened before that. There were always things that happened before our earliest memory. And if we can rediscover that which happened before our earliest memory, we have a clearer understanding of the the direction that we take in life because we get closer to where we started.
Okay, and how is it possible?
Uh, well,
Thanks.
the, okay. So, two ways. There's two ways to do that. The first way is that you have to go through a meditation process. Really focus on yourself, your history, your childhood, and that's all an internal process. The second way of doing this is to ask other people, family, who remember you being small and can tell you about things that happened to you when you were small that you can't remember.
I think or I feel that my family remembered less than me about me. When I speak with my parents or with my sister, they know nothing. I remember things around them, around me, but they I don't understand this. They don't know nothing.
Okay. Um, why do you think that is?
Mm, because they were not in present moment on this time, and their mind was uh, in their mind was a chaos, and they were in neistota. It's no
Un
centerly.
uncertainty.
Uncertainty. It's a difficult word.
It is certain and uncertain, certainty
Mm-hmm.
and uncertainty. Um, yeah, that's a great realization because it's probably true. If you don't focus on the game, you can't talk about the game because you don't know what is happening. And there are a lot of people who are not focused on the things that are happening in their life. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
life is not in their control. Things are happening to
Mm-hmm.
them, and
Mm-hmm.
they are not really in control of those elements.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like having a plan. If you have a plan, you can look at your plan and say, okay, this is a plan means you understand the past, the present, and the future. This is a great thing about plans because you make a plan based on your experience because you want to change your experiences. And and so if you've got focus and a plan for everything that's going on around about you, you remember it much more. But if you don't have a plan, if your life is ruled by other people's plans, you work and follow somebody else's instructions for that work, you send your children to a school where the school educates the children and you don't educate the children, um, if your entertainment is things created by other people rather than things created by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's positive and negative forms of entertainment. I would say there's a big difference between going to the cinema or watching a film and playing a game of cards.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas playing a game of cards, it requires thought and interaction and it's kind of a creative activity. But going to the cinema to watch a film is very passive.
Passive. Mm-hmm.
So it's about life is much more about you happening to life than life happening to you. It's much more about being active than being passive.
Mm-hmm.
And the more passive you are, the less you see, the less
Mm-hmm.
you notice, the less you're aware, the
Mm-hmm.
less you remember. And then we all know that the best way to learn something is to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Take cooking, for example. The best way to learn if you can cook or if the recipe is right or if you have the right ingredients is just to cook and try it and see if
Mm-hmm.
it works. There's no other way to do it. And I'm sure that you have had this. Here's a classic experience that almost everybody has had, where when you're the driver in a car, you perfectly remember how to get from one place to another place. But when you're the passenger,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
don't remember because your focus is different. When you're
Yes.
the driver, your focus is almost totally on the road, the direction, being in the right lane, getting exactly where you need to go, where the other cars are on the road, what the signs say, the buildings, everything that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a passenger, your brain tends you to look out the window and you watch the people
Mm-hmm.
walking up and down and you look at the sky and maybe you
Mm-hmm.
change the radio station or something and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe you're reading a book or I don't know, you're not connected in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the drivers always remember the way to go and the passengers are like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
Exactly.
when you have children in a car, well, what's the classic question that children always ask when they're in a car?
When?
Yeah, are we there yet?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not drivers.
Mm-hmm.
They only have this experience as passengers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
time and distance and speed doesn't
Boring.
mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's like they don't know if they're in the car for 5 minutes or in the
Either.
car for 25 minutes
Mm-hmm.
because it's the same experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's in general not interesting because there's not that much they can do except sit and look out the window. Um, uh, Maybe they can have an interesting conversation, maybe they can play with their phone or whatever, but all children always ask the same question, are we there yet? How long? How much further? And because they have no concept of time because they don't have any experience of driving. They don't know what it means to drive and to plan and organize. Whereas if you sit down with your kids and you explain to them time and principles of time and concepts of time and if you say, okay, you're the driver, imagine you're the driver, how long do you think it's going to take to drive from here to there? How long do you think it's going to take? Like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour? um, and you can slowly bring to them a concept of time and an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of time by bringing them into the planning. Should we
Mm-hmm.
go here or should we go there? Okay, how much time will it take? Do we have time to go here and there at the same? Should we take
Mm-hmm.
this road or that road? Why does everyone take this road? Why does nobody take the other road? And by bringing them into the planning of things, uh, we're going shopping. What do we need? What do we need to buy? Go and look in the fridge. Tell my son, William, go and look in the fridge. Tell me, tell me, tell me what we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mind-blowing question for a kid, right? The kid's like, what do you mean? How can I tell you what we don't have when I can't see what's not there, right? But the principle is to spark the mind and to get the children thinking about what is normally there that they can't see, or what we're using, what we don't have enough
Mm.
of, what's going to finish. It's
And
always this. Mhm.
what is his reaction on his answer to this question?
At the moment, my son's favorite answer is, I don't know. So he says it with that intonation. I don't know. So I say, William, what should we have for lunch? I don't know. Oh, come on, come on. We got to get beyond this I don't know stuff, right? You got to, um, uh, because everybody knows something. Yeah. So, and the I don't know comes from not enough cognitive contact, not enough involvement in decision making.
Mm.
Uh, I and that's something that I need to work on with my family is involving the children more in decision making. Like I try to ask them in the evening, um, what should we do tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And try to get them thinking about if there's something that they want to do, if there's something that they have that they and if there is something they want to do, what do we need to do that thing? Do we need money? Do we need to pack some things? Do we need to prepare something before we go? If it's to the swimming pool or if we're going for a picnic somewhere, how much food should we take? What kind of food
Mm.
should we take? Uh, giving kids a certain amount of money to spend is always really really interesting learning experience. Watching kids develop an understanding of money, the importance of money, um, how to value money, how to understand the importance of it. That's a really interesting process with children, and it's all mathematics basically in numbers and
Mm-hmm.
helping them to understand the principles of numbers and where does money come from and how do you get more of it and what can you use it for and
Mm.
money should never be given to children without them having done something to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
It should never be given, okay, here's some money, go spend something.
Yeah.
It should always be trade. It should always be barter. If you want the money, what are you going to do? Or we're going somewhere, when we get there, you're going to need some money. I've got the money, but you're going to have to do some stuff for me first if you want me to give you the money.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can make the trade the other way. It's like I can give you the money and you have to promise to do things for me. But if you promise and you don't keep your promise, you don't get the money the second time. And it doesn't matter how much you cry and how many tears run down your face. If you don't keep your promise, that's your problem. It's not my problem. Um, so never, ever, ever ask somebody for something. Always ask someone what you can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
Never go to someone and say, I need this or I want this or whatever. You always go to someone and say, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you need? And first invest in them before um, asking for any kind of help.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the first stage is always a personal investment. Not because you want to manipulate the situation, but just because it's wrong to expect something for nothing. Too often parents give their children money and the children spend the money and they never think about it again.
Mm, that's true.
And if you can engineer a situation where a child has to make a decision with money, it's always a great learning experience. Right, you've got this much money, so you can't have this and this. You can only have one of these two things. Which of these two things is going to give you more value in your life? Which of these two things is more important? Why is it more important? How are you going to use it? What can you use it for? Can you use it for anything else?
Mm.
And trying to get children to make choices
Mm.
is key. Most people make decisions for the kids.
Yeah.
So the kids don't have any experience of making decisions, but leaders are born from making decisions.
Mm.
If you can't make a decision, you're a follower. But if you can make a decision, you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so teaching and training, in a sense, training children about the important principles of making decisions
Mm.
is, and with decisions comes responsibility. Everything is connected to everything. So the more,
Perfect. Yeah, it's
yeah,
perfect that you know everything this because you can teach them just this what you know.
oh, I wish it was that easy.
Mhm. Yeah, because um, all these things my parents didn't teach me, and now I start to understand that's because they know this. They don't know this.
It's hard, and I I think as a society and a world, we're getting better. More people are learning these things, but
Mm.
knowledge of these things was knowledge of human psychology was not common more than 100 years ago. People knew that people liked certain things in certain ways, but they weren't quite sure why. And the last 100 years has been a lot of in-depth psychological study of personality, and social habit,
Mm.
um, in in order to try to understand why we make the decisions that we make, and hopefully to guide the world in a more peaceful path, in a more peaceful way. And I think that it is working slowly, but the brain is just like the stomach. You know, whatever you feed it with is, the quality of your life. And if you don't spend time with intellectual activity,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't spend time stretching the muscle that is the brain, for me the brain is a muscle. So it
Mm-hmm.
has to be trained, it has to be stretched. You have to work on your your memory, and the best way to work on memory is to read, and so few people read,
Mm.
truly read now nowadays. I think it's it's quite sad. Most people are, I don't know, texting or reading a blog page, or they're just
Mm.
too busy to have time to read. But uh, a lot of things are naturally instinctive. It's like the mothers know that they should breastfeed their children. It's sort of there's a lot of just choices that are just automatically positive that we know to do without thinking much about them. If
Mm.
somebody falls down, we help them up. I mean, it's just it's the instinctive reaction. And yet things are, even though we know the answers to a lot of questions, it doesn't mean that we can apply these things practically in our own life. Because from the outside, everything is easy. Football, goals. Put the football in the goals to get points, right? I mean, it's simple. But then you play the game and it becomes extremely complex because there are rules about what you can do and what you can't do, and there are other people involved, and everyone's got a different position and a different role to play, and so life becomes complex very quickly, and it's the complexity of things that confuses people and causes mistakes. Where if you can stay focused, and staying focused means keeping things simple. If you can keep things simple, you can stay focused. If you can stay focused, you can keep things simple. These two things work together, and it's like being pregnant and giving birth. If you're pregnant and you're thinking all the time about, oh my God, how am I going to give birth? I mean, it overcomplicates it because it's going to happen naturally. So what you have to focus on is just eating the right food and not eating the wrong food, basically. And that's simple step-by-step process that results in a healthy baby, hopefully. So, so there's a great human habit to fail because we make things too complicated. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have complicated things. Computers are useful, and planes are useful, and cars are useful, and we can have a lot of advantages from that. But we have all of these things and objects in our environment, but that doesn't change the fact that usually in general, happiness and the beautiful things in life are very simple things.
Yes.
Sleep, for example. Sleep in a bed. It's kind of comfortable. Having a person to hold or to kiss or to hug or whatever, it's something that we don't have to pay for. So family is something we shouldn't have to pay for. It should be a positive experience. So the more we can simplify things and sort of, I think block out that which is not so important, which is the past sometimes. We focus on going forward. Nobody focuses really on walking backwards. We all focus on walking forwards because we know that's the direction we need to go in. There's only one way to go. Time goes in one direction. There's a knock at the door. I think that's my son. Wait, excuse me 1 second. Who's that? Are you? Oh, hello there. Are you gonna say hello to my student? Oh, it's an army. I'm being invaded. Oh, Nini, what's this? 100% ovoce.
Let's try and
Bez lepku. What's lepku?
try and open it.
Excellent.